far from your computer. Great. And all right, so good. Everybody's muted to avoid any extraneous sounds. So tonight's our rest and reset yin restorative mashup, and we're just going to use a dog bone. Obviously, we're going to use a blanket, a bolster, and a block. And if you have a choice of bolsters, you can have them both nearby if you'd like. I'm going to stick with a rectangle bolster for tonight. And yeah, so that's how we're going to get started with just those 3 props. And the focus of our practice tonight is going to be lateral love, moving down the lateral lines of the body. I think we did something, well, last week I talked about unpacking the spine because I've just been so sedentary. So here we are again, because there's so much sitting going on still in our world, or at least in my world. The focus of the practice is lengthening, stretching, and creating space between the ribs, and lengthening the organs and the connective tissues along the side body. I'm going to have my phone with me just so I can keep track of the time, because I've lost my watch. I've misplaced it. I haven't lost it. I've just misplaced it. So when you see me looking at my phone, don't think that I'm like texting or scrolling or taking pictures or anything. I just need it for the time. Come to your mat, please. And we're going to start out in child's pose. And I'm actually going to encourage you to put a block underneath your head. You could put a bolster under your head if you wanted, but the block might be a little less cumbersome. Just put the block on its second height, I think, maybe flattest or second height ought to do the trick. The point is, I want you to have your cervical spine in pretty much the same plane as the rest of your spine. So place that block at whatever height you need it. And then bring your arms forward. Settle your hips towards your heels. And slowly inch your fingertips towards the top of your mat. Good. Now, if this is comfortable for you to stay here for the next 2 minutes, just in this straight on balasana, I'll have you do that. If the knees are not happy with this flexion, or the hips dislike this amount of flexion, or your ankles are beginning to sass you, then please come out. Just come up onto your hands. Come up onto your hands and your knees, if you'd like, or switch gears altogether. You can come into a cross-legged position if you'd like, or simply sit up onto your bolster and hug your knees to your chest. Explore the width of your ribs as you inhale, particularly your side ribs and your back ribs. How broad can you make your upper back just with the power of your breath? Good. And now we're going to take your block with you and sweep your arms and your trunk over to the left. Ooh, stretch your right arm up towards the left corner of your mat, top left corner of your mat. Once again, place your forehead on your block and use your left fingertips to press into the floor just enough to kind of push you into your right flank. So lean into the right side of your body. Simultaneously, reaching your right arm up and out of your lower back. And let's slowly come back down the center. Give yourself a full breath in and a long exhale here at the midline. Now, before we go to the other side, we're going to switch it up just a tad. Come up onto your hands and your knees. Get out of that deep flexion. Set your block forward. And then we're going to come into thread the needle. I want you to take your left arm onto the floor between your right hand and right knee. Come all the way down to your left shoulder, all the way down to your left temple. Pressing your right hand into the floor, unthread your left arm. Ooh. Coming back to your hands and your knees and pull your block forward towards you so you can once again rock back into balasana, child's pose. Rest your forehead to your block. And we'll simply take 2 or 3 breaths in child's pose, just kind of checking in and connecting with our spine, hips, waist, ribs. Just notice how you feel, right side, left side, right ribs, left ribs. Even right lung in comparison with your left lung. And then we'll move over to the right. So bring your block with you as you sweep your torso over to the right, reaching your left fingertips to the top right corner of your mat. And softly pressing your right fingertips into the floor to give you that lean. Lean into your left ribs. Almost like your left ribs are a hammock. Just lean your organs into that hammock of the ribs. And at the same time, arcing your left arm up and over to the right. Okay. Let's come back to center. Slowly draw yourself up to your hands and your knees. And we'll thread the needle now, taking the right arm onto the floor between left hand and left knee. Ooh. Bring your awareness to your right ribs and wrap your right ribs around towards your sternum. Oh yeah, wrapping the connective tissue and even getting a sense of your skin moving, gliding over your fascia, gliding over your ribs. And then get a sense for your left ribs kind of rolling back towards your spine. Press your left hand into the floor. Slowly come back to hands and knees. Rock into child's pose for just one full breath in and one sweet exhale out. Good. And then up onto your hands and your knees. And I want you to take a quarter turn, take your knees over to the, I guess that would be the right, and set your block off to the side of your mat. Bring your bolster snug against your left hip and thigh, coming into lying side stretch. The quintessential, well, side stretch. I have my blanket folded. It's in a rectangle, but if you notice, I have it folded yet again into a bit of a square to make a little bit of a taller pillow for my head so that my shoulder doesn't get jammed up into my ear. And you can adjust the height of your blanket, of course, once we get into the shape. So with the bolster snug against your left hip and left thigh, drape yourself over your bolster. Oh yeah. Pull your blanket underneath your head. Ah, yeah. Oh, I love this one. Ugh. And then here we go. Let the timing begin. I just think this pose is just tremendous. Anything goes with your legs, right? You can stretch your legs down the length of your mat, or you can keep your knees bent, or you can do a combination. And then likewise, anything goes with your right arm. You can sweep it up over your head if you'd like. And I tend to do that and then bend my elbow and reach my right hand just kind of behind my head. Let my fingertips rest on the mat, but do what feels right in your body. If at any point you feel tingling or numbness, moving through your right hand or wrist or into your fingertips, then I want you to bring your right arm to your side once again. That would be indicative of perhaps some compression throughout the brachial plexus, and ain't nobody need that. Notice if you're holding any tension in your jaw. And if that becomes apparent, then see what you can do about that. Give yourself permission to move your mandible back and forth a few times. Maybe even let your mandible, your lower jaw, kind of unhinge and drop towards the floor. Allow your cheeks to be soft. Facial cheeks, but for that matter, butt cheeks too. Just find some ease in the shape. Okay, we're going to shift it up just a little bit. If your right arm is over your head, I want you to bring it back to your side. And then grab your block, and with your block on maybe its second height, I want you to sweep your right knee forward. Bend your knee, sweep your right knee forward, and rest it on your block. So put the block on whatever height it needs to be to make that somewhat comfortable for you. Stretch your left leg down the length of your mat, if it's not already. And then I'm going to have you sweep your right arm up and behind you. Ooh, so coming into the side stretch, twisty action. Yeah. Ooh. So a couple of things you could play with if you wanted to stretch your right leg and push your right heel towards the wall that's in front of you. You could reach down and grab a hold of your right foot with your left hand. I'm not going there, but you would be in like a supine triangle. But for our purposes tonight, for really resting and easing into this, we're going to keep the right knee bent. Resting on the block. because we're all practicing at home or in our offices these days, you could find something to rest your right hand on. You could rest it onto another bolster or a couple of pillows, maybe onto an ottoman. Okie dokie. So you're slowly going to bring your right arm up and over. Slide your block out from underneath your right knee and bend your left knee and nestle it underneath your right. Okay, now the exit needs to be slow and deliberate. You're just going to come up onto your left elbow and rest your head in your left hand. Pull a deep breath into your back lungs, back ribs. And then press yourself all the way up. And we're just going to take a seat for about 20 seconds. So cross-legged or sit up onto your bolster. Eyes closed, let your hands rest on your lap, on your legs. And as though you had a little internal scope, a little internal microscope device, explore and do some comparison between your right side, your left side, right ribs, left, right shoulder, left shoulder. Notice where you feel constricted or small, congested, where you feel expansive, broad, open, and wide. Okay, let's do the other side. So set your block over to the other side of your mat and give yourself a 180. Snug your bolster up against your right hip with your knees bent. And here we go. So we did 8 minutes. We did 4 minutes in just classic lying side stretch. And then we did another 4 minutes in the twist. So adjust your pillow. Notice it might need to be different on this side, maybe a little higher, a little lower. And determine how you want to set your legs up. Do a little experimentation. And then likewise with your left arm, maybe over your left ear, towards the floor beyond your head, or maybe just keep it down by your side. Okay, let's prepare for part B. bring your left arm down by your side. And then bend your left knee and settle it onto your block. Stretch your right leg down the length of your mat. And then here we go. Left arm is going to reach up and over. Maybe. Here we go. All right. And then what do you notice right away? What differences come up between the two sides? So give yourself an opportunity to just scan and check in. A little internal inventory. And then just see if you can ease into the pose and kind of drop into a state of release or relaxation. Sweep your left arm up and over. Notice that there's any rush of blood or energy or heat As you bring your left fingertips to the floor, and then you'll bend your right knee, remove your block so you can stack your knees one on top of the other. And remember, the exit is slow and mindful. Come up onto your right elbow, rest your head in your right hand. Breathe into your mid back and upper back. Like you could stretch your spine with your breath. And then come up the rest of the way. Lovely. I feel decongested already. So move your bolster to the side. We're going to come to it here in just a moment. I want you to come onto your back. Move your blanket out from underneath you. So your head can be on your mat rather than on your blanket. And let's do just a few rounds of windshield wiper with our legs. Just kind of releasing any pent up or stagnant energy through the hips. Getting a little flow of blood and lymph through the thighs and the groin and the lower back, and even the belly. So your feet are wide and your knees are bent. You're just dropping knees to one side then the other. And I like to drop the knees on the inhale in order to support that extension through your spine, and then pull your knees up through center as you exhale. Notice how free you feel through your side waist, how fluid and mobile you feel through your connective tissues and your ribs and your skin. Good. We'll go one more time from side to side. And when you've completed that, bring your feet onto your mat once again and slide your bolster underneath your pelvis. So lift your hips. We're going to come into a supported bridge with the bolster underneath the pelvis and the bum. You'll have a little cheek meat hanging off the edge that's totally appropriate. And I want you to keep your knees bent. And we're just going to take about 30 seconds or so, maybe 45 seconds to let our body get used to this modified inversion before we take it a step further. All right. Now, with your knees still bent, I want you to shuffle your hips over to the right edge of your bolster, taking your hips off center of your shoulders. And then you'll cross your right leg over your left leg, all the way over. And taking your right arm out to the right, now we're going to drop the knees to the left. So keeping in this theme of lengthening the side body, we've addressed our ribs and our waist and the QL. Now we've got to get into that outer hip, right? Maybe even a little bit into the IT band. So, manipulate, move your feet around so that you feel fairly supportive. And here we are. Arms are stretched out like a T. Maybe the elbows are bent. So you come into a cactus shape. Just play around with it and see what feels right for you.
There's quite a bit going on here. If your lower back is not happy with this shape, not appreciative of this at all, then by all means, remember the motto: if you can't get out of discomfort, get out of the pose. So you can come into a twist by removing the bolster and just bringing your hips to the floor and taking your knees to the left. I don't know if you can hear that snoring, but that's my dog. A very contented house hippo. Okay, let's prepare to exit. So I want you to use an inhalation to bring your knees back up. Whew. Take your time uncrossing your legs. Shift your hips to the center of your bolster. Ooh. And let's pause. Check in. Right hip, left hip. All right, now you're going to very gently wiggle your hips over to the left edge of your bolster. And of course, remember, if your low back doesn't like this, to ditch the bolster. Totally legit. Cross your left leg over your right leg and over you go. Take your knees to the right. Come on. And the timer begins. On this side, I get a little tweak in my left knee. Something starts in my left hip crease. I can feel a little like a zing. And then it kind of shows up down in my knee. So what I do is I take my block on its tallest height and just kind of rest my left calf on the block. This gives me a little bit of lift, kind of holds me up, holds my legs up just a little so there's not so much pressure on my knee. So I share that with you to let you know that you've got props around you, and feel free to explore with them to make the shape fit your body rather than trying to make your body fit some ideal of the shape. Ooh. Bring your knees back up. Slow, slow, slow. Uncross your legs. Gently slide your hips to the center of your bolster, and you're going to take about 30 more seconds in this bridge shape. If you want to stretch your legs down the length of your mat, you can try that. If that makes your low back really start sassing you, keep your knees bent. You can take your arms up over your head and give yourself a big stretch, whether legs are straight or knees are bent. Irrelevant. Stretch your arms. Create as much space as you can from your shoulders to your hips, from your armpits to your hips. And if your legs are straight, from your hips to your heels. Very nice. Bring your arms down by your sides. Bend your knees and set your feet to the mat. You're going to lift your hips only enough to push your bolster forward towards your heels. And once you can bring your spine and your butt down to the floor, then relax your legs, your thighs, and your knees over your bolster. But be sure you're in a position where your heels can touch the floor. I like there to always be some sense of grounding the circuitry when we come into Shavasana. So feet to the floor, heels to the floor. And then, you've got this blanket. You can put that under your head for a little added cushion, cranium cushion, or you can wrap yourself up in your blanket. I like the added weight of the blanket on my pelvis and my ribs, my upper thighs. Excuse me. Hmm. And let your body rest. And if your mind is having a hard time dropping into that state of rest with your body, then use your breath to gently coax it that direction, breathing in and count to 4, breathing out, count to 4. Finding that balanced and stable breath eventually translates into finding a balanced and stable mind. And then you can begin dragging the exhalations out just another beat or 2 or 3. Eventually landing on that rhythm where you're breathing in for 4 counts and you're breathing out for 8 counts. Shh. Shh. Mm.
Now you can let go of manipulating your breath. And let it find its own pattern. Its own rhythm, its own rate. And then if you have the time and space in your schedule to stay in Shavasana for another 5 or 10 minutes, then please do. Otherwise, you can draw a deeper breath in. And as you exhale, move some energy down into your fingers and your toes, and through your hands and your feet. And stretch through your arms and your legs in any direction that feels good and that the space around you allows for. And pull your knees up one at a time to your chest. And visualize how you're going to come to sitting. Maybe roll over to your favorite side. And bring yourself upright. And with your 2 palms together, base of your thumbs to your third eye. May we have peace in our minds. And bring your fingertips to your lips. May we always have peace in our words. And then rest your hands at your heart. May we have peace in our hearts. Thank you for joining me and the others on the screen. Great. Good.